Welcome back to the Kempire Daily YouTube channel, where you get daily and consistent hot topics in music, entertainment, reality TV, and so much more. As you come into the chat, be sure to drop your elephants and your crowns and let me know where you're watching from. We have some hot topics that we need to cover, and the biggest hot topic has to be Meghan McCain. And I know a lot of you have strong opinions because I came into the chat and you all were sharing those opinions already. But there's a lot of perspective and a lot of tea that we've heard over the years from various sources about The View, about Meghan McCain, and so much more. Guys, don't forget, here on the channel, you're getting daily and consistent content. If you missed any of the hot topics that we posted earlier today, including a story about Kandi Burruss owing more taxes, and is Dorito out at the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills? Be sure to check out those videos. And don't forget, we are trying to raise $2,500 for breast cancer awareness this month. The charity that we chose is Black Women's Imperative. Be sure to check out those videos for more details on how you can donate. Thank you so much for those that have already donated or promoted or shared the donation. Thank you so much. All right, let's see what you guys are saying in the chat. What's going on? Canada's in the house. Love it, love it, love it. Arizona's in the house. Brooklyn's in the house. Yes, what's going on, y'all? Kansas City, Cali, what's going on? I love seeing you all here. England's in the house. I'm almost on your time zone. Almost on your time zone. It's a little bit late here, but look, it is what it is. What's going on, Kristen? All right. Oh, hey, from Amsterdam. We are in the same city. How do you like your stay in a beautiful city? So this is my 4th time to Amsterdam. So when everyone says, how do you like your stay? This is my 4th time. This has probably been the most challenging, because it is a pandemic, visit, but I've made the most of it. I've visited so many cities, including Rotterdam, Amersfoort, another one. I can't think of, The Hague, but there was another city I went to see. I can't think of the name right now. Oh, Utrecht. There we go. So I visited some cities that I haven't visited before, gone to some small towns where I look at architecture, culture, and how it varies from miles to miles. Is so interesting. Guys, if you're just joining us, we already have over 100 something people in the chat. Be sure to like the video. It's an easy and free way of supporting the channel and also pushing out this video to other people that may not know of the Kempire community. So shout out to you guys for being here and supporting. So let's get into the story. So as you know, Meghan McCain departed from The View this year, and there were multiple reports on the reason behind her leaving, what really went down at The View. Well, now she's confirming it in this new book, Audible. I don't know how I feel about audiobooks. I get it. It's an easy, really quick way to read a book, technically. But I digress. So she has this new audiobook that's coming out called Bad Republican, and she's talking about her time at The View, and she's not holding back. She's talking about her relationship with Whoopi Goldberg, and the deciding factor for the reason why she decided to leave The View was Joy Behar. So beyond that, when we reported on this story, one of the things that we reported on was that Meghan left The View despite The View executives begging her to stay. She confirms that in this new interview and this excerpt that we got. And I read the interview, I read the excerpt, and I know what you all are going to say. Oh, here's Meghan crying. And honestly, at the beginning, I was like, oh, here she goes. But here, I'm going to share my view on Meghan on The View. I remember Meghan McCain before she worked at Fox News, and she would, sporadically show up on shows, including the Wendy Williams show, and she was very likable. I'm not sure where Meghan changed. I don't know if it was at Fox News, but the woman that we saw on The View, I get it. She's a conservative. Here on the channel, we welcome everyone's opinion. But it's all about how you share that opinion. And I always felt that Meghan just came across, what's the word? It just was so aggressive sometimes. So I don't know what it is. And it's not saying that women can't voice their opinions or be strong with their opinions. That's why I've always loved The View. I love seeing women share their opinions in such a powerful and dynamic and unique way. That's what I think I love about The View. And I love the evolution of The View, going from just being sort of like this daytime talk show talking about, entertainment, to politics, because I think a lot of people, especially in the last administration, really did start to get more involved and understand what this means for the country, what politics means, what these laws mean. And I just never gravitated to the way she shared her opinion. It just always seemed so bratty sometimes. But with that being said, reading this article, she talks a lot about her anxiety after giving birth to her daughter Liberty. And she talks about the quote toxic work environment at The View. But here's the thing, I know a lot of you are going to say this. Oh, here she goes. But we have to remember there was that book that revealed a quote toxic work environment at The View before Meghan McCain. Let's not forget about that book. Okay. So not only did that book reveal a lot about what went down, there was also an interview that Rosie O'Donnell did with with Joy Behar on Watch What Happens Live. May it rest in peace. I'm joking. I'm joking. Ida says entitled maybe. Kristen says her fallback when disproved was always my dad. Hear me out, everyone. Hear me out, and I will drop the call link so you guys can share your thoughts on some of the things that she said in this interview and in this excerpt from her audiobook. So in the book, there was another book that was written about the behind the scenes of The View and what was going on there. Okay. And it revealed a lot. But in this interview with Rosie O'Donnell and Joy Behar on Watch What Happens Live, Rosie really opened up about the very inappropriate, allegedly, I'm going to say allegedly, about the things that were going on at The View amongst the co-workers. And apparently those things did not change after Rosie left or when Meghan McCain was on the show, because she talks about how The View is treated sort of like the, I forgot her exact words. I want to see her exact words on how she described The View. Hold on. Because she says, hold on, y'all. This is why I wish I could have highlighted this like a book. Can't highlight an audiobook. But oh man, where's that part that she says she treated like a oh, it's all right, y'all. I can't find it. Why can't I find it? I literally read it multiple times. Where she talked about how HR didn't exist on The View. She made complaints at HR, and even in her exit interview, she had expressed concerns about the way that The View was conducting the show. Happy birthday, Linda. Happy birthday. And it says, yes, entitled and very immature. And yeah, look, I'm not going to look, y'all already know I'm not here to defend Meghan McCain, but there are a lot of things that she talks about in this audiobook when it comes to how women are treated in the workplace, when it comes to paid family leave, when it comes to mental health. We can't say that we advocate for mental health only if it exists for a certain type of person or a person that we like. We can't say that, because my favorite quote from Dr. King is that an injustice anywhere. Hold on, let me get it. Let me have a headache, y'all. An injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. So we can't pick and choose who we want to defend when it comes to a cause. When we say, my body, my choice, or when we say mental health is important. And she talks about after giving birth how she had this postpartum anxiety, which is different than postpartum depression. And she says that she was so concerned for the safety of her child, and when she returned back to The View, she expressed that it felt as if everyone had turned on her, and she felt as if she was not supported in that moment. And she says about her relationship with Whoopi Goldberg changed as well. She said the first couple of years working with Whoopi was good, but then she felt as if Whoopi turned on her. And this is what she says in the interview. So when asked this question about Whoopi, she said, "When you first started out on The View, you and Whoopi were close, right?" She says, "Not close, but warm and friendly." She's then asked, what happened? "I have a lot of love and affection for her." Speaking of Whoopi, she was surprised when I left. She yields an unfathomable amount of power in television and in culture. And it felt at a certain point she didn't want me at the table anymore. It started with the "girl, please stop talking." You remember that went viral? If you didn't, go Google it. There's a lot of videos on YouTube about the infighting and the on-air fighting that we got to see. So she said it started with the "girl, please stop talking" incident. "I remember when it happened, almost crying on the show. I never wanted to upset her, but I also wanted to be truthful about how I felt about politics and my perspective, and sometimes those two things couldn't coexist. At a certain point, I made the decision it was important to be honest than to be liked." Again, her her fighting on the show, her way of expressing her side of the of her opinion, I never really enjoyed because, like a lot of you are saying, it was entitled, it was immature, it was unprofessional at times. Um, in regards to the "please stop talking" incident where Whoopi Goldberg told her to do that, remember they were remote during this time. She said part of the reason why she feels as if they weren't able to kind of get over some of the fighting that they had on air was because they were working remotely because of the pandemic. So normally, if you're around each other, you're able to resolve those issues quicker. And because of the pandemic, they weren't able to do that. She says this: "It was horrible." To her credit, Whoopi apologized the next morning. I would apologize when I messed up. I effed up a lot on that show." She starts to cry during this. She says, "I don't know why I'm getting emotional talking about this. A lot of this feels like such a waste. It was humiliating for me, and I'm a serious person. I felt like I was being talked to like I was a child and a brat. And when things go viral on Twitter and people write things, it really does impact you. I felt very lonely." One of the other things that she says in this interview and in her memoir, she felt like there was a lot of leaks happening on The View about her specifically, not about any of the other hosts. There were a lot of leaks on The View calling her Ice Queen, talking about other problems. And she says some of the things that were leaked were true and some really were just fabricated. Okay. She says, "I love Whoopi. I felt at a certain point she stopped respecting me, and it was hard. I don't know why I'm crying so much. I wish things could have been different. I know she had her own dark times. When I was on the show, she almost died of pneumonia. I wish we had better leadership that could have stopped a lot of it." Here's the thing, when Barbara Walters was on the show as well, that should have been the leadership. She was an executive producer and she was on the show. However, we heard that this quote toxic work environment has existed for a very long time at the View. If you guys are just joining us, we're talking about Meghan McCain and some of the stunning claims that she makes in her new audiobook, Bad Republican, where she slams her relationship with Whoopi Goldberg and she reveals that the breaking point for her was when Joy Behar said on air, when and I remember seeing this particular moment, and I did get where Megan was coming from when she said, "Oh, you missed me." I took her as being, trying to be funny in that moment to make that moment light. But Joy saying, "I didn't miss you." And of course, that was another moment that went viral. But she says to her, it really broke her heart. She says she got very emotional about it in that particular moment, that she wasn't even sure that she could even go back on air. But she said that was the day that she decided that she would not be returning. She still had 2 years on her contract, and according to reports, and now she's confirming in this new audiobook, the executives at ABC did try to keep her on the show. They did try to keep her on the show. Um so this is what she says. Um Did you know? This is what the interviewer asked Meghan McCain. "Did you know you were going to leave The View when you wrote this book?" She says, "I didn't know I was going to leave until my second day back from maternity leave when Joy told me nobody missed me. Zero. That was the day I decided." show, and we've seen interviews with Joy talking about that relationship. And this is the question posed to Meghan in the interview. She says, "How did you and Joy get along at first?" She says, "Fine. There were pockets of time when Joy and I had a great relationship. We have foundational things that are similar. We're both strong. We are both unemotional. Neither of us like talking about our personal life on camera. I found a lot of synergy between us as women." So she says that when the things that the moment that this relationship changed, she said it was COVID. "I think it's easier to solve problems in person." So in regards to that moment when Joy said she didn't miss Megan on air, she said this is her reflection on it. She says, "I had postpartum anxiety. When I was back, I was really nervous. It was like starting TV all over again. I felt unsteady. I was trying to make a joke. 'You missed me so much.' If you watch the clip, her reaction is very sharp. I can't explain what it felt like. The people in the room with me in the DC borough, there was a sound engineer and a hair and makeup artist. The sound woman looked shell-shocked at what she'd seen." So what happened behind the scenes that we didn't know about? She talks about it in this interview, and she says this in regards to her crying during the commercial break. She said, "Bad," and started lactating. Remember, she had just given birth. "I did end up being able to go back on air. I remember Dr. Sanjay Gupta was on and he looked weirded out. He went out of his way to be nice to me. After the show, I went back to my office and had a panic attack. I couldn't stop crying, and I'm not always crying. I couldn't compose myself. I threw up in the garbage can. I was so overcome. This is my narrative. I came back from maternity leave and no one missed me. I knew it was going to be everywhere. I was just so confused because women, when they have babies, should be treated respectfully when they come back to work." Okay. Um, so in regards to an apology, as I said to you before, when she talks about the relationship that she had with Whoopi, and when Whoopi made that comment to her, "Please stop talking," she says Whoopi apologized the next day. But when Joy told her on air that she did not miss her, zero, she says Joy didn't apologize. And she, speaking of Meghan McCain, went to executives demanding an apology from Joy. They basically said to her that was not going to happen. They were saying basically that was not going to happen. Let me see what you guys are saying in the chat. Sorry, guys. I was trying to get all this information out before I looked at the comments. Bim says, "I guess they should have given her a red carpet welcome." Cool Cat says, "So what? Nobody missed you, girl? Bye. She's at work, not with her family. It's a job and not the spoiled brat club. She cared nothing about other women needed post maternal support. Hubby blocked it." Mm. Quale says, "It wasn't a problem that she had opposite views of some people, that she was rude and she was a brat and she was spoiled and she thought that the world would revolve around her." And I have to say, reading the excerpt that was released from Bad Republican Meghan McCain's new book made me, at the very beginning, I was just like, oh God, okay, this is obviously her perspective of the situation and her own thoughts of the situation. The parts to me that stood out was her talking about postpartum anxiety versus depression. You know, we always hear about postpartum depression, but we don't hear about postpartum anxiety. And she talks about that in the book at length. And I know some of you are not going to read it. That's why I'm here to give you just a quick overview of what is said in it and the highlights from what I took from it. And you know, here on the channel, it doesn't matter your political affiliation. We are not here to bash anyone, specifically women. And I think it's important because of the conversation that Meghan McCain is having about mental health. That was the thing that stood out to me. And it's crazy to me with a show like The View, and this was the biggest part. It really is bigger than Meghan McCain or how any of us feel about Meghan McCain. Was The View a show that talks about politics, that talks about women empowerment, that talks about supporting women? And I'm not basing this just off of what we're hearing from Meghan McCain. This has been said this has been told, this story has been told by Rosie O'Donnell on Watch What Happens Live. She talked about a toxic work environment at The View. This was told in that book. If you read that book where they were talking about some of the things that have happened over the years at The View, to know that this is still going on at The View and they haven't done anything to make any changes about it, that is pretty disheartening and sad. That is pretty disheartening and sad. Brenda says Joy was rude. Look, y'all have put Joy over the rail too at some point too, because of some of the things that she has said. Jenny says maybe I won't, since he's giving the highlights. Cool Cat says she said that she had anxiety when she left Fox. Rosie was mistreated to me. Here's the thing, and that's why I felt the need to do this live, was because there are consistencies in what Meghan is saying, what I heard Rosie O'Donnell say after she left The View, and what was said in the book about The View. This to me is more about The View than it is about Meghan McCain. You can feel whatever you want to feel about Meghan McCain, but reading the excerpt, you're welcome, because I read the excerpts and the interview. And as I said to you before, the bigger issue that she's talking about is mental health, women not being supported, truly supported, especially after giving birth in a work environment that talks about it. And that's where we talk about a lot of these networks. We were talking about Wendy Williams and how we felt as if they were just pushing her out there for the last couple of seasons, to the point where now she can't even return to the show yet. Their bottom line has to do with advertisers and making money, and not supporting a woman, not supporting mental health. We can say a lot of different things, but it's going to be our actions that really speak louder than words. Again, guys, if you just joined us, I'm talking about Meghan McCain, her new book and audiobook that's coming out. They released an excerpt from it where she has some damning claims about her relationship with Whoopi Goldberg. She says that the reason why she decided to finally leave The View, even though she had 2 years on her contract, was the incident that we all saw play out on TV between her and Joy Behar, when she said, "Oh, Joy, you missed me." And Joy says, without laughing, "I didn't miss you." We all kikied about it, but apparently to Meghan, who was going through postpartum anxiety, she said it set her over the edge. It set her over the edge. Diana says Meghan disrespected people on air constantly. Look, I'm not forgetting any of the other things that she's done, but she says this in regards to the other Republican women that have been on the show. She kind of makes it seem as if everyone's a liberal at ABC, and which, usually entertainment, you are going to have more liberal minded people. She says the hosts are liberal, the producers are liberal. She says that the only way a conservative woman can survive on that show is if they sort of fall back in regards to their opinions. Someone like an Anna Navarro, and I'm just adding those names. So she's saying that you can't be truly a conservative, especially during Trump's administration. And she felt as if the ladies couldn't understand the role that she played, despite Donald Trump bashing her father even after his death. Here's the thing, though. I understand she has a role to play, but there's nothing wrong as a Republican pointing out if another Republican is doing something that's inconsistent with Republican values. But we also understand, and we see this on many different talk shows, a lot of times people lean into the role that they've been assigned to play. They may not necessarily think it, but because they play that role on the show, it makes for good TV. And that's part of the reason why I believe the rumors that the ABC executives were begging Meghan to stay. She brought ratings. Don't forget, Fox News is the #1 news network. I know it's scary to think, but it is. So she represented those people, and she brought those people to The View. And that's why The View had major, major numbers. I love Anna on the show. I also liked, oh my goodness, I can't even think of her name right now. Andrew says, Kempire, please don't fall for her mental health postpartum act. It's all a way to sell her book. She doesn't support women's rights. Look, I'm not falling for it. What I am pointing out is that we do need to talk about supporting women that have given birth. We know that postpartum depression is real. There's an element of postpartum anxiety that she brings up that I thought was necessary. There are tons, the majority of the people that subscribe to this channel that watch my videos are women. So it's important for me, especially when women's issues come up, to talk about them. And I know there are a lot of women that can relate to what Meghan went through when it comes to postpartum anxiety. That's something that we don't talk about. I've seen it in other women, but I do think it's necessary. As I said before, we can't just box someone like Meghan in and say that we support mental health, except when it comes to her. You know what I'm saying? So that's part of the reason why I wanted to do that. Yes, I have not been able to watch because, as you guys know, I'm traveling. But I saw a clip of Ebony on The View. It's a perfect job for her. I'm mad that it had to take her being on Roni for that opportunity to come up, because she's been doing political commentary for a while in other platforms. But it was a good look for her. She looked great. And she holds her own. It's a better platform for her than reality TV. You know what I mean? But we shall see what's next. No word on what's going on with Roni or what Roni will look like going forward. Guys, if you're just joining us or if you're watching the replay of this, I want you to share your thoughts. This is a safe place. My moderators make it a safe place. I hopefully make it a safe place for you to share your opinions. If you don't agree with what someone has to say, you can not respond to them, or you can respond with an intelligent and insightful and a civil comment. Let's not fight in the comments, because as we say here on the channel, I'm not moderating adults. I'm not moderating adults. I'm going to drop the call-in link. I want to hear what you guys have to say about this hot topic. Guys, Moz, can you just let me know where we are with the likes? I'm still going to drop the call-in link, but I just want to know where we are with that. We already have over 500 something people watching. I appreciate you all being here. I decided to, at the last minute, to go live to talk about this because I read everything about it. And I've been following The View since the beginning. I've been watching The View since the beginning. Thank you. Oh, okay. We have 500 something people in here. Let's get to 200 likes. 200 likes. 200 likes. What's going on, Korea? That's another place I want to go. But I'm going to have to wait until, because I think in Korea, no matter if you're vaccinated or not, you still have to quarantine for multiple days. I don't want to be stuck in a hotel for that many days. Okay. All right. Hold on, y'all. Let me just change my banner here. Let me do this. Okay, sorry about that, y'all. Just take care of some stuff. All right. As I said before, guys, if you just joined us, we're talking about Meghan McCain, her new audiobook, Bad Republicans, talking about Whoopi Goldberg, her relationship with Joy Behar, and the toxic work environment at The View. This is not the first time that we heard of a toxic work environment allegedly at The View. Not sure what The View will say. I'm not sure if there's been an official statement from The View in response to this. I'm sure there will be. Any follow-up to this we will get into. But as I said before, we've seen this sort of play out. And The View's been on for 25 seasons. And we've heard from multiple sources of a toxic work environment. Now we're seeing someone like Wendy Williams. Allegedly, there was a toxic work environment there as well. So let me just take some callers, guys. We're going to take some quick callers, and then we're going to call it a wrap. I still have to do a live for the family Chantel and 90 Day Fiancé the other way, but stay tuned for that. If you're not subscribed to the channel, subscribe, hit that notification bell so you don't miss out when we do go live. And if you're a part of our texting community, then you got the notification for this live. So join today at TextKempire.com, and shout out to our Royal Court and our Team Kempire members of the channel. Head on over to TeamKempire.com for more details. All right, let's take some callers. Rasani, I'm going to bring you up for a quick comment. What's going on, Rasani?
Hey, Kempire, how's it going?
Not bad. How are you?
I'm good. When are you coming back?
Rasani, you act like as if I'm still here. I'm just
No,
in a different
I mean,
location.
I get the time difference, and then when you have to come on and you look so sleepy, and I feel so bad for you, and I miss the notifications, and I can't call in because I have so much to say about all the other madness.
Well,
But I just have. Go ahead.
no, I try to still put out, content around the same time. If not, it's a little bit earlier for people.
I know, but I just feel like real bad for you. It's like, oh my God, look at the
Oh,
sleep in his eyes.
well, thank you. What are your thoughts on this Meghan McCain story?
So I didn't catch the beginning of this live, but I kind of get the gist of it, which is pretty much talking about the toxic environment in the View at the View. I did read the book that the View, the unofficial. I did well, no, not read. I did the audiobook,
Mm.
but this is my question: where's this toxic behavior coming from? Because from listening to the book, I assume that it was from like Barbara, but she hasn't been there in years. So
Yeah.
I don't understand why the cycle still continues. And I know you read someone's comment about, her mental health, the postpartum. That could all very well be true. However, I think we all should be mindful when we're speaking about other people's mental health, because we really never ever know what someone's going through at any given time. Not because I had when I was growing up, I knew this guy Marlon. God rest his soul. He was like the most talkative, chatty. If we're out on the street and you saw Marlon coming down the road, everybody ran and hid because he will just keep in a conversation forever and forever and forever. He was just like very outgoing, very perky. And one day I was, like cleaning out my phone, my electric organizer, and I was like, oh, I don't need Marlon's number. He lives on the road. I can, go around there, and I deleted it. Went home to Jamaica on a visit, like a couple days after. I landed today. Tomorrow he shot himself and killed himself. And it was just like
Ooh.
it was the shock of me, because you would never get depressed from him at all. Just speaking to him on a one-on-one. He was always, the most optimistic, always pushing you, always, that go-getter. It's just like you never know what someone's going through mentally in their head, and it's a sad thing to get trapped in your head. So I just want us all to be a little bit mindful when we speak about things like that. We may have our opinion, but yeah, that's what I wanted to say. But my question to you again was, what do you think is causing this toxic behavior or pattern at the View?
Based on the clues that I've been gathering, it seems as if it really wasn't just Barbara. Yes, Barbara was a part of the executive team there, but it was also executive producers. It was directors. So it's the people in power there, very much like Ellen. And according to this interview that that Meghan does, the interviewer asked her, is it as toxic as the Ellen show that we found out that was reportedly going on with Ellen? She says yes, but in a different way.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, it's unfortunate because, whenever we have to go and show up for work, this is where we spend most of our day. And we spend more time with our work colleagues or work friends than we do with our actual family. So
Yeah.
you should feel comfortable going into work. It shouldn't be, stress related. I've had jobs where I got to work and I sat in the car and I was just like, should I? Should I?
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, you have to do what's best for you. I don't know. I may peep her book. I don't know. Megan, I can agree with Megan on some housewife related topics, but some of her things she's a little bit too extreme for me. So I don't know. We'll see. But that's all I had to say. Thank you for having me.
Of course, Rosalie. Thank you so much for calling in.
Talk soon.
Bye. And this is why I love our community, because everyone is open to having these conversations. And I think what Rasani says is very important, especially when we talk about mental health. I'm just going to say it again. We don't know what Meghan's story is. This is her side of the story. But what I did want to address was this allegation that ABC's The View is a toxic work environment. And we've heard from other people and other stories that this might be true. There's a lot of smoke. And in regards to the executive producer, Brian Tedder, who you probably see a lot of times on camera, she says he means well, but at the same time, he can't control what's going on there. So she's not really giving us all the specific details, but she is basically saying what we've heard from other people, including people like Rosie O'Donnell. When Rosie O'Donnell brought it up on Watch What Happens Live, and Joy Behar was sitting right there, Joy, who still at the time was still on the show, looked very uncomfortable. She didn't deny it, though. All right, Kristen's backstage. What's going on, Kristen?
Hey, Kempire. How are you?
Oh, well, how are you?
Good. So, I read the Variety interview article, and I feel like, first of all, it was extremely biased. It was the interviewer is a friend of Meghan McCain's, so
Yes.
It's not objective.
No.
But I also think by reading her responses, just how myopic Meghan McCain's view is, because she completely leaves context out of what she describes. So the first thing that I want to address is the girl, please be quiet thing that happened.
Yeah.
Whoopi made that comment to her, absolutely. But the context was they had Republican and liberals on the show as guests that day, and they were discussing Republicans refusing to participate in Trump's impeachment process for abuse of power and corruption. And Meghan McCain kept interrupting anyone who was criticizing any Republicans, including interrupting Anna Navarro. So she kept interrupting and defending Trump for, like, one of the things that was discussed was the Trump Hotel in DC, that we all now are seeing reports coming out about how that was used as a front for foreign governments to funnel money to the Trump administration. That was something that was actually part of that impeachment process. It was directly addressed. So Whoopi Goldberg, she let it go on for quite a while before, Meghan jumping in, and she was extremely aggressive, and she was extremely abusive to Anna Navarro on that particular episode, which is when Whoopi Goldberg finally cut her off. She had lost her patience and said, "You need to be quiet." That's the context, for which Meghan responded with, "Fine, I'll just sit here and I won't say anything at all," like a petulant child, not an adult professional at their place of employment.
And she should also understand TV. TV, you have to go to commercial, and as the moderator, that's part of Whoopi's job.
Yes. So that's the first thing that I wanted to address. And then the second thing that I wanted to address is the context regarding her return from maternity leave.
Yeah.
I want everybody to just stop for a second, because Meghan McCain returned on January 5th. January 5th of this year. And then what happened the next day? The next day, we saw Trump, who she has repeatedly defended, and Republicans, who she has repeatedly defended, attempt to overthrow our government, attempt to decertify and disqualify the will of the American people. I understand, Meghan McCain says, well, has repeatedly said, well, what about the 74 million voters for Donald Trump? While disregarding the fact that 81 million voted for President Biden. She says she decided on the 5th that she was going to quit. But what happened the next day? So the fact that she can literally sit there in a vacuum and and try and say, well, they were mean to me and they did all of this to me and it was so toxic. I understand, it's unpleasant when you're the odd man out. I totally get it. I do. But you can't sit there and expect people to not be angry when we had Confederate flags marched through the United States Capitol. We had members of Congress who were running for their lives. We had members of Congress who did not know if the police that were there to help them were part of the problem or were there to actually help. We had members of Congress whose panic buttons were mysteriously missing. And they had no ability to reach out. They have a panic button in their offices for a reason. And I don't think people who have never been to Capitol Hill understand that the Capitol building and the surrounding office buildings for the House and Senate, those are very large structures. It is a complex. That complex you couldn't move through it because of the fact that they were in the buildings. Meghan McCain repeatedly referred to them as protesters. They were not protesters. They were rioters. Those who were there for the rally because they supported Trump, they didn't go to the Capitol building. They didn't invade the Capitol building. They might have cheered, but they weren't the ones smearing feces on the wall and stealing laptops. They were not the ones who were doing all of that. So when Meghan McCain comes back, the next day after January 6th and is criticizing everything, and then suddenly, not long after, changes her tune to start defending them. Now they're not domestic terrorists. They're protesters. They're not rioters. They're Trump supporters. This is the thing. People who voted for Trump in 2016, even in 2020, I did not see 74 million people at the United States Capitol building attempt to destroy our government. No. So I'm sorry, but Meghan McCain saying, well, they were mean to me and my mental health was suffering and I had postpartum depression and anxiety and I was throwing up. You know what? If I was the only conservative face on a television program where the others are liberals and they're angry because we just saw a push, P-U-T-S-C-H, that's the term, or insurrection, if you want to use that terminology instead, though push is more accurate. We all watched that. We watched it happen on live television. I was watching people tweet about it before CNN hit the coverage. And what did Meghan McCain think was going to happen when she started defending those people? What did she think was going to happen when at the end of January, we had the state of Texas suddenly freezing and children freezing in their beds? What did Meghan McCain think was going to happen when she defended the deregulation that allowed that to take place and continues to defend that even still to this day? So I'm just saying that her sitting there and saying, well, they were mean to me, it was a toxic work environment, all of this, you know what, that can totally be true, but you need to provide the context, because she says, I decided on January 5th and expects all of us to believe that January 6th had nothing to do with her leaving. And that is a load of fucking bullshit. And we all know it. So Kristen, I only say that because, and I know how you feel about foul language, and I'm sorry. I just,
trying to get me demonetized over here. No, I'm playing.
No, come on. The Civil War, they didn't even do that, and I know, and please understand, I am a huge history buff, so I'm aware of the context of even using that as well. I know that if it hadn't been for Lincoln refusing to allow the Maryland legislature to vote, but they would have voted for secession. He put federal troops around the state capitol in Maryland because it was a slave state and he didn't want DC to be surrounded by slave states. So I understand the historical context of what I'm saying. What I'm also saying, though, is that Meghan McCain chooses to pick and choose which parts of context she wants to highlight as she paints herself as the victim over and over and over again. It's always, they were mean to me. And if you pick apart what she says and bring up things that, that prove that she is factually inaccurate, her constant fallback is the nepotism defense of, well, my father. And you know what? Her father was a statesman. I understand. He was an American hero because of what he endured during Vietnam. And he did that with honor and humility. But who he became after that is also relevant. And her consistent defense of the Republican Party while ignoring the change in Republican values that have become the disenfranchisement of those who will not support their agenda of apartheid. That's important. And Meghan McCain refuses to address those issues. And when anyone tries to do that, she becomes combative and aggressive and abusive. So
and on that note, Kristen, I always appreciate when you call in and share your thoughts. Don't forget, tomorrow is Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. So on Thursday, we're going to have a lot to unpack.
I know. I'm going to be looking at those clips, and it's going to be interesting. That's for sure. All right. I'll let somebody else chime in. Have a good rest of your evening. I hope you get to eat some amazing, I was going to say Danish food, but you're not in Dutch food. There we go.
There we go. Okay. Thanks, Kristen.
All right. Bye.
Bye. Guys, if you're just joining us, we're talking about Meghan McCain and her new audiobook, Bad Republican, where she talks about a few different details, including her postpartum anxiety, her relationship with Whoopi Goldberg, and the reason why she decided to finally leave The View, despite ABC executives begging her to stay. I'm going to bring up Bella. What's going on, Bella?
Hi, how are you?
I'm well. How are you?
Good. This is actually my first time. I literally just saw your channel a day ago and I subscribed. So I was it was nice far. So I thought I watch a View. So I thought I should give my opinion. To be honest, I understand, her. Well, first of all, the person before me just basically shook me, basically summarized what I was gonna say. But personally, I believe that a lot of the moments on The View where she got into those arguments, after them, she would kind of claim oh, the media is being sexist towards me because they would never cover a man the same way they cover her. And while I kind of agree with that, I also think it's if you're rude, you're just rude. And the media is the media, and they're going to cover sensationalism. They're going to cover the drama and the tea. So if you kind of make personal attacks to people, they're going to cover that, And another thing, she also said, she talked about, I saw the article, she talked about postpartum, and while that's a valid thing and it's absolutely real, I found that she was also pretty combative before she was pregnant and before her father unfortunately passed away. So I noticed those things in her, when she started the show. She was still interrupting people and being quite rude. So I don't think it's something to blame wholly on that, although I don't know anything about that because I've never been pregnant. But I think you need to take responsibility for how you talk to other people, especially people you claim that you're friends with and that they get along backstage. It's well, clearly on TV you're making personal attacks, and then she gets surprised when people respond to her personal attacks by saying that's rude, that's nasty. It's if you bring that certain energy, you can't expect people to not return that energy, So I won't take up too much of your time, but that's just basically what I wanted to say.
Thank you, Bella, for calling in, and thank you for subscribing.
Thank you.
Bye. Hey, I do want to say I missed a super chat. I think it was Maureen who sent in the super sticker. Thank you so much for the super sticker. Thank you for everyone that supports the channel, no matter how you support the channel, be it super chats, watching, liking, becoming a part of our membership here on the channel. For more details on the membership, you can head on over to TheKempire.com. I'm going to bring up Amy for a quick comment. What's going on, Amy?
Hey, the ghetto. I got to start with that.
Yeah.
I hear what everybody's saying, but I'm going to have to push back on it just a little.
Okay.
I feel what she said was correct. Was it coming from the wrong messenger? Yes, because Meghan has literally called Joy Behar a witch, with the other word, on television, on live television, and I was shocked. I think her personality just didn't gel well with the bullying, but I have seen Joy and Whoopi, those two together, bully the mess out of conservative points of views on those shows, especially different panelists. We had I forgot the girl's name, but she was Italian. She was there after Elizabeth. They bullied her into a point of submission where she didn't even state her opinions. They had the other girl, it was 3 other women that showed up after, and each time they tried to give a different opinion, eventually they would just back down and just come down to like a consensus of like, yeah, we agree to disagree. But watch Whoopi Goldberg argue down Rosie O'Donnell to a point where Rosie left the next day. Those two together are toxic. That is just the reality. Joy and Whoopi are toxic. But when it comes to what's the girl's name? What's that girl?
Meghan McCain?
Meghan, there you go. I'm sorry, I'm losing it. Meghan is she was tired enough for them, but eventually when she had that baby, her emotions took over and she couldn't handle it. But to be honest with you, Meghan does, like, she does not always come right with how she approaches them, and they just got super, super nasty towards the end. But when it comes to a toxic environment, we've heard more than multiple people say that environment is toxic. You heard Rosie, you heard Elizabeth, you heard what's it called? Lisa Ling, all of them, even the first beginning of the groups, all say that it was toxic. It's just that people don't want to listen because it's coming out of Meghan McCain's mouth. Meghan is a problem. Yes, she needed to go. It was one point like they out here calling each other bees. One of them got to leave because I've never seen that level of toxicity roll over to the live show. Most of the time we hear about it after the fact. And the first time we asked toxicity is when Rosie and Elizabeth got into it and Rosie left. They have always had that issue.
And remember Rosie said, that that whole set, it was a whole setup, that conversation between her and Elizabeth, to the point where they were able to do the side-by-side screening.
Split screen.
Yes, but there you go. I couldn't think of the word.
Yeah, they did the split screen and Rosie was like, they did this, and I cannot be a part of it. But they brought Rosie back. And we're thinking, because now Elizabeth's gone, it's supposed to be a good environment. But Whoopi took up for what Elizabeth left after. They had a whole argument about baby racism, which Rosie was correct about how young Black people are perceived in this country. And Whoopi argued her down on something she was dead wrong about, and to the point that Rosie left. Cause I feel like Whoopi thought that she was coming for her anchor chair or something. I don't know what's going on with them, Joy and Whoopi. Those two together can be toxic. Even if they're dead right, they can go over for the juggler to the point where you just don't even want to watch it. I don't watch View for the simple fact that Rosie and Joy and then Meghan at the end of it. Them 3 together, I couldn't stand watching them argue. Because sometimes they argue about something you don't even need to be arguing about. It's just stupid. And Meghan is immature and she's in but she was the only person that would go back with them back and forth. Got to a point when she started calling Joy a B on television. I said, "Oh, I'm done. I don't do this." I mean, I'm used to when you call somebody a B, hands are getting thrown. People are fighting. So people acting as if it's not toxicity on there. It's just was Meghan. No, they have a problem with that. When Meghan leaves, it'll be a new girl that they do the same thing to. It don't matter who they bring up in there. Whoopi and Joy have a problem, and they need to fix that ASAP. And I'm finished.
All right, Miss Amy J. Thank you so much for calling in. Bye. Guys, if you're just joining us, of course, I was just taking some callers to talk about the story that Meghan McCain, she did an interview with Variety, and we got an excerpt from her new audiobook, Bad Republican, where she talks about her experience on The View, her experience after giving birth, and her journey in postpartum anxiety. If you're watching the replay of this, I want to know your thoughts in the comment section. But as always, let's be civil and kind to one another. We don't delete comments here on the channel unless you are being derogatory, aggressive, or bullying, those types of things. So just keep that in mind. And you can also not comment. If you don't have, you know what your mama used to say, if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all. Shout out to everyone that sent in the super chat or super sticker. Shout out to my moderators for keeping this chat an open dialogue so people can share their differing opinions. And it's okay. It's okay for us to have a different opinion on this hot topic. I don't know about you, but I'm going to go enjoy the rest of my evening. I hope that you guys have a fantastic Tuesday. We will be recapping 90 Day Fiancé The Other Way and The Family Chantel probably tomorrow. I already put out a couple of other pre-recorded videos for you guys earlier today. So be sure to check that out as well. Thank you so much for being here. I will talk to you guys later. Have a great rest of your evening.